What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode with your boy Phrankleen. Right, so today's topic: the single parent household, the black community's demise. There's a question mark behind that. Now, if this is your first time, thank you for stopping by. I'm the brain behind this channel. My topics, particularly in this segment, say it like it is, pretty eclectic. They span across everyday topics, that affect us. Could be about religion, could be business, could be relationship. Pretty eclectic, like I said. So, but before I crack on, this video is sponsored by my picture Nursery Rhymes, whose co-creator is a Nigerian in the diaspora. This app personalizes the face of your child as the main nursery rhyme character with your child's photo. Perfect gift for kids, nieces, brothers, and sisters under the age of 5. So today's topic, the single parent household, the black community's demise. There's a question mark behind that. Okay, episode 71 of Say It Like It Is. Now I've got some notes here on my phone that you see me, pretty much reading out to you as we crack on. So from my observation, the single parent household is basically, it's been on for donkey years, but that number growing rapidly, exponentially, and looking at it closely and critically, it's sabotaging, deeply sabotaging the structure of the black community. Because when you have homes where you have just women raising kids, whereby fathers are missing or not present for whatever reasons, it end up having adverse effect on on the children. It could be a household with just one child, it could be two children, it could be 3 or sometimes even more. And if you look at it, particularly here in the diaspora and stuff, there is the school to prison type of route that a lot of kids from broken homes where fathers are not present, there is no father figure, and no proper home training being given. The quality of life is just shambolic and it's just terrible, and it puts a lot of pressure. And you find more and more of our kids, of our children, turning to crimes and carrying weapons and committing crimes, or particularly not being able to chase in terms of moving up in career, or having visions and saying, oh, this is what I'd like to do with my life. Aspirations are at the lowest. A lot of them at a very tender age, they turn to petty crimes, and from petty crimes they turn to major crimes. And these things are well documented. They're known to more and more destabilize a lot of our young men and young ladies alike, or young women. They're in the prison system, and I've known this for a long time personally, but these sort of gave birth to the sort of recent critical analysis, and me just pondering and looking at statistics and stuff. Now, part of the reason why I came up with this topic was recently, as if you've been following most of my episodes, I got loads of videos, loads of emails, and where people say to me, Phrankleen, I'm a single mom, this and this and this. And I've also had occasions where I get emails from single fathers and stuff. And some of these emails, some of them I'm yet to roll out the videos, but some of these videos, these emails, they're based on evidently on the struggle of the said single parents. The home front is already cracked in half. They're struggling to pull the weights. They're struggling to raise the children. There was someone that I got an email from recently, who's a single mom who has 3 children. 2 of them have just pretty much stepped into the teenage life, and the woman is absolutely struggling. Because of the sacrifice, she decided to sacrifice. She basically curtailed, prevented herself from going into another relationship with someone else, because I guess the other one ended acrimoniously. So basically what's happened is she dedicated a time, which is quite commendable, to raise the 3 children, 2 of which are teenagers, young teenagers right now. But it's proven challenging because one of them, the first child, is a young growing up to be a young man, and he's got loads of conflicting stuff. He's angry because, as she said, of the broken home. The other one basically is mirroring the feeling of the older one, and the third one is a lot younger. So but she's in a dicey situation, pretty challenging, pretty traumatizing for herself and particularly the children. And usually what happens is, particularly on this side of the world, if care is not taken, those youngins, as I love to call them, will end up turning to crime or doing something illegal. And the system, as I always say, is unforgiving. They will get arrested, and if depending on the severity of whatever they've done, they might, before you know, within the 2 shakes of a dog's tail, they might just end up in prison. And then once you start getting documented by the police and all that stuff, your fingerprint gets taken, you're getting tagged, you're getting prison sentences, community sentences. What that means is the future prospect gets obliterated, gets diminished. Well, usually 9 out of 10 times, most of these kids just go to take a sharp left and their lives just go down the drain. They're unable to chase careers and have proper jobs or do well with their lives. So in future, they then turn around and blame the government, they blame the system. And don't get me wrong, I'm thoroughly aware, I'm sure some of you watching this will be thoroughly aware of prejudices that we have to deal with in the society that we live in. But having said that, if we don't really do something about the root cause of a lot of these problems, I'm personally worried, I'm concerned that the black community, I think of the future and just try to say to myself ever so often that what will be of the black community. I mean, we're already struggling as a people. We are not united, unfortunately. I've said that in the previous video, whereby the black community is one community where there is no love, there is self-sabotaging, there's a lot of hatred, there is pointless jealousy. We don't fuse in together, we don't operate as a unit as we should, compared with other communities, and it worries me sick, because on this side of the world, like I always say, the government, the justice system, the policing system is not forgiving. A 13-year-old kid, you go out, you go and do something stupid, you throw stones at someone, I'm just giving an example, you assault someone, you shoplifting, it could have been you just stole a couple of sweets. If that child gets detained, it depends on the discretion of the police officer. They might just decide to pull the child's ear and give the child a warning and then take them to their parents and not document it. But 9 out of 10 times you might get documented, goes on your record, and then down the line, like I said earlier, you're trying to get employment, you don't stand a chance. The society doesn't care. And I've got a couple of bullet points here that I would like to hammer on. Now, in light of the recent emails that I've been receiving, right now, I was critically looking into a gentleman that said he came from a background whereby he cherishes the values of father and mother type thing, because he grew up in a household where his parents were present. Now, his wife, on the other hand, both of them he's Ghanaian, she's Nigerian, but his wife, on the other hand, grew up in a broken home. Grew up, in fact, a lot worse than a broken home, because she was raised at some point by her mom. The mom died, tragically, and then a sister, her mom's sister, then raised her, and then some other extended family members. So she lived there, and what you find is that woman is then unable to effectively function in the confines of a marriage. So the husband cherishes marital values. But the thing is, I always say one thing, you cannot give what you don't have. So this woman is functioning in an environment that she doesn't really understand. She's not been trained. She's not been given any sort of advice or training about marital values. What you need to have in you, how you should relate to the other party within the confines of a marriage, and particularly if you've come from a broken environment whereby you've lived with other people like this. So it's more like foster caring. So you can't, to be able to blend and be able to function effectively in an environment of a particularly cold marriage, it's absolutely impossible. So I've got a bullet point here that says it's difficult to build a successful marriage or relationship with anyone who grew in a home without two parents, they will more than likely not understand the concept or importance or compromise, and may not necessarily share your idea of core family values. So that aligns with what I said earlier, because a lot of these people just get angry. They don't, because you see, you can't give what you don't have. So if I've grown in a broken marriage or in a broken home, and I've never had a father figure, right? Sometimes it's an uphill battle. And some of these things, the adverse effect is they create a high number of deadbeat dads. I've also seen people who grew up in a family where father and mother were present, they raised them right. He just turned out to be a completely useless human being. You have a number of those. But when you grow up in a dysfunctional environment, in an environment where there's no father figure, where certain values were not instilled in you, when you grow up, and then you get a woman pregnant, and then you start running your own family, or you marry a man, you don't have those things in you. So to be able to then play them out on a daily basis or put the work in, it would be absolutely impossible. That's just the way I see it. And another thing is, here in the West, the issue of a lot of the rising number of single moms and stuff. I'm talking about the black community now. Now I've got another bullet point here. Due to government handouts, child tax credits, child benefits and all these things and other benefits, a lot of women have allowed the government take the place of their men. Notice the use of a lot of women, okay? So this is not women bashing. I'm just stating facts. Unfortunately, like the system here in the West, it's a divide and conquer type of system. And I've said this in the previous video, where you have women who believe, okay, if I'm, by myself and with the children, they are perceived as vulnerable. So it's very convenient because in fact, the system aids them, to kick out the man so they can have a home, a flat or whatever to themselves. They're getting handouts from the government. So they're getting all this child tax credit, the subsidies and all these things. And some of these women, they believe it's a better option for them. And I always say, and I'll close on this, you see, however way you want to look at this, however you want to approach this, the people that tend to suffer at the end of the cycle is always the children. They're the most vulnerable ones, because if you have a child where both parents were not there to amalgamate their parental abilities to nourish that child and give that child a fantastic welfare and a healthy environment and the core values that will set them up in life and stuff, those children will grow up. Like I said, some of them turn to crime. Aspirations are level 0. They're very low at the bottom end of the spectrum. There's no driving force. There is nothing that encourages them, especially male figures. There's no father figures. I know in the case of girls, they might just go left and start, slipping around. And in most cases, some of them become baby mothers or start procreating very quickly, which is a major conundrum. Very prevalent in our community, because why? If you see your mother just home is littered with kids and you got loads of siblings, there's no father figure, there isn't proper core values instilled, and everything is just so toxic and stuff, the likelihood of some of the children turning in a similar direction is very high. You see children actually having children, girls really young having their own children, and the vicious cycle, they're looking for affection at the very tender age from external figures. They see a guy who probably only just wants to get between their legs, but they are caught up, the fact that that guy will, or that lady will provide what's that vacuum, will be able to fill in that vacuum of what's missing in their life. And like I said, what you find is it's prevalent. Some of you might not know this, but it's a problem that's really, really sabotaging the black community. The high and growing numbers of, single single households, single parent households, and which is having adverse effect on our children. Because when children then grow into the system, because what the system does in diaspora is, oh, they're not going to flog them, they're not going to do anything. Those children start to misbehave, they turn to crime, they just start to document them. I call it labeling. They start to label them, and the prospects, of getting jobs and being able to compete effectively with their counterparts in future and stop, just takes a nosedive, and it becomes really difficult. So anyway, what do you think? Let's keep the conversation going on below. How do we address this? You see, amongst ourselves in the black community, if we can't come together to, one, educate ourselves, because education is key. Education is connected to virtually everything that we do. If you're not properly informed, because knowledge is power. Some of our women, single parents, they're misinformed. People would self-sabotage, they would wreck relationships just based on ugly information. They believe that's the right way to do it because of because of handouts from the government. They prepared to crumble and destroy everything, and all sorts of other reasons why people have a broken home. But my submission is, the children, boys and girls, are the ones that end up suffering. They grow up into a society, they're already neck deep in dysfunction, they're in proper home training, proper family values, proper values that are meant to form as a foundation for them to go into the world. The world is already complex as it is. The world is already difficult as it is. So that's me though. Let's keep the conversation going on below. If we don't come together as a people, as a unit, and start addressing some of our problems, educating ourselves internally, helping ourselves to get better. I don't see any other race, I don't see any other person, I don't see the government helping the black community fix our very obvious and prevailing problems. It's your boy Phrankleen. If you would like what I'm about, be sure to hit my the like button, hit the subscribe button, show your love, man, and I will definitely catch you in the next one. If you want to send me an email, send an email to foodchannel1960@gmail.com. And I think I've managed to fulfill my self-imposed obligation on this episode. And until the next time, be good, peace and love. Bye now.